just to introduce you, my name is Laura Johnson and I work for the Compassionate Community team in the Diocese of London. I'm relatively new to the role, about 7 months, and I work part-time. Our team has quite a large job in the sense that we are the kind of central support for all our churches doing social action projects and social justice outreach within our churches across the diocese. Some of you might know us really well. I know my colleague Evie has been over to St Catherine Creed quite a bit lately to hear about some of your work, for example. Some of you might not have heard of us. But yeah, our job really is to support you. And one of the things that kind of staggered me when I first took on this job is that around 1 in 4 of our churches in the diocese do social action projects or outreach, particularly related to refugees and asylum seekers, which is staggering. In some ways it's really great to hear that, because our churches are responding to needs, but of course the level of need is something that is not something to be celebrated. So we have this balance of trying to do what we can. My role within the Compassionate Communities team is a development worker, and my themes of work are refugees and asylum, which is obviously relevant to tonight, housing and homelessness, and also modern slavery. So if you ever need any support around those things, please come and talk to me. Joining us tonight, we have Yasmin Hussain from the WEA, the Workers' Education Association. I'd really like to thank Yasmin for coming along tonight, telling us a bit more about the ESOL classes they're funded to provide by the Greater London, is it by the GLA? Yeah, by the Greater London Authority, and within that, the London Strategic Migration Partnership. I was doing my homework, reading up on WEA a bit when we first met, Yasmin, and I was staggered to find that you've been going for like nearly 125 years, is that right? So started in 1903, not you, 1903, which is amazing, and particularly to empower adults by bringing teaching to local communities. And I know you're going to tell us much more, so I'm not going to, step on your toes with that. So thank you so much for coming tonight. Really looking forward to hearing what you're going to tell us about how our churches can get involved in helping run ESOL classes and some of the experiences of some of your own students. I'd also just like to say a quick hello to my colleague Lois, who is very kindly doing all the tech so that me and Yasmin can focus on facilitating the group tonight. So thank you for that, Lois. What we're going to do is I'm going to hand over to Yasmin. She's going to give a couple of presentations. I think she's got some videos, so just make sure that your speakers are working for that. It's a short video, I think. And then she's going to tell us a bit more about ESOL that WEA provides, and then we can open it up for Q&A. And I don't imagine us going past 8 o'clock. Webinars can be very long. I don't believe in very long webinars. I think people lose concentration. So we'll keep it to the 8 o'clock deadline, and we'll swap contact details and things. I'll send a follow-up email so that you can connect with Yasmin if you want to continue the conversation. Okay, great. If whilst Yasmin is talking, you think of any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or Q&A, or you can save it till later and raise your hand. But I know for some people they'd rather write it down, so please do that. But for now, over to Yasmin. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Lois, in the background. Lovely to see everybody tonight. People call me Yaz, it's just a little bit easier. I'm the Contract and Relationship Manager for the GLA, so the Greater London Authority contract. So I speak directly with the funders, so we have a lovely gentleman in GLA, and we have a combination. So we have quite a large pot with which we can do qualification courses and non-qualification courses. Now, I thought the best way to explain what we do, because we are quite a large organisation, and as Laura said, have been going for a long time, I thought our learners would be the best people to say. So it's about a 3-minute video. I love this video. Hopefully that's sharing. Yep. If you can't hear, let me know. Actually, I didn't do the share sound. Sorry, my mistake again. There we go. Share sound. There we go. So enjoy this.
My name is Jane. My name is Lourdes
Abdulaziz.
Cousin. My name's James.
My name is Carla.
Tracy, and I'm a WEA learner.
I'm studying now employment skills course.
I'm on the WEA digital skills course.
Today is the celebration cakes on a budget.
I'm doing social care level 1.
Level 1, we're in preparation community interpreting. I've increased my skills and it's given me more confidence.
Well, I couldn't hold the mouse when I first. I was a bag of nerves. I was shaking like that. Now it's like I'm a lot more confident.
I learned how to prepare myself for job interview and how to be positive in every situation.
This is very helpful for me for confidence. It's very good for my English.
Now I feel more confident, more happy.
Thanks to WEA courses, I just feel ready to start working right now.
The atmosphere in the course has just been really positive, really encouraging, really enthusiastic.
Everybody's all interacting and we help each other out.
I love to learn online and I love the WEA system because they prepare you, they make you feel confident, they make you feel ready.
Well, the atmosphere in the class, to be honest, is just amazing.
There's something magical about it. There's something about the ethos and the energy of WEA which is truly inclusive.
There are so many online and in-person courses for adults to choose from.
A few of the learners want to progress into employment, and others it's just for confidence building or socialising.
The growth and the differences that you see in the learners, it works whether it's actually face-to-face or online.
I've really appreciated that the course has been accessible for me as well. As somebody with a visual impairment, that's been really important and has made a big difference.
I never realised how much I was going to enjoy it. I'm just going to keep moving forward and forward now.
It's make different to me because I had an interview. I used that strategy that I learned from the course. Then I passed the interview and got the job.
These skills is help to budget and save money for my family.
I would say that WEA can help me with my dreams and can help me to go down channels in my life that I never thought possible.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained, so go out and have a go.
This is a beautiful community of lovely teachers that they will give you the support you need to focus on your career and find the place in this world that you deserve.
WEA is the best. It just can't help itself, from the breadth of tutors to the breadth of learners to the amount and variety of courses and contexts and the locations in which they're run. There is literally something for everyone, and who wouldn't want to be a part of it?
That should have stopped the sound for you. Okay, that just gives a real overview of the breadth of courses we offer, and all of those are available if you can find tutors for courses. Those are particularly Abdulaziz, he's an asylum seeker refugee who's down in Portsmouth, who's one of my old students in terms of the team that I used to run, and that was a partnership we had with another organisation who works directly with asylum seekers and refugees, so that's a really good outcome. And some of the other courses are also really helpful, so that kind of gives you a little bit of a breakdown. I'm just going to go and bring up another slide, PowerPoint. All right, so hopefully you can see that doesn't need a sound. Ooh, where do I go from here? From current slide. There we go. Okay, and it's just that we've been going for over 120 years, coming up to 125, and it is about bringing adult education to those who need it. Obviously, asylum seekers and refugees are a massive group, but we also work with modern slavery learners that are in that category as well, in certain areas. And we are very heavily involved in fighting inequality and promoting social justice. That's kind of where the organisation, if you like, started, and where we definitely continue to be. As they mentioned, we do both online and in-venue courses. We never intended to do online. It was a pilot in April 2020 as COVID started, funnily enough, and we were always using Zoom because of the diaspora nature of our teachers. Actually, we could never do training in one venue because we work in England and Scotland, from Cornwall right across to Kent up to Scotland. So it was difficult to get everybody together. So we used Zoom pre-COVID a lot. And what we did was we had a pilot of 30 courses going online from April to July 2020. We ended up moving 1,000 courses because of the nature and the need for it. And it was a lifesaver so all the experiences that were available, across all different providers, they were just a lifeline for people, and those were the words that people used, and they were the words that people used during Ofsted last year. So we continue to do that. We're around about a 50-50 split. We are not an online provider in that we have a teacher sitting. If it's 20 hours of learning, you'll get a teacher for 20 hours of learning. So it's just the medium is Zoom as opposed to being in a face-to-face classroom. So we're not that kind of online provider where they just give you materials and you carry on. So it's slightly different. We are teacher-led in that respect. We prefer to do ESOL, in all honesty, face-to-face, particularly at the lower levels, and that's what I found has worked and works best. These are just a couple of statistics from one of our impact reports around increased confidence and well-being, which some of the learners were talking about. But it's phenomenal to look at the figures of how many people have low literacy and numeracy and cannot speak English and all of the other things, and how funding is being cut, which is a big campaign that we're actually working on at the minute, that we think we work with the hardest to reach, and if we cut that funding, they're the ones who are probably going to be the most affected by this. So we're currently doing a Stop Adult Education Cuts campaign, which you can find on our website, and I'll put the links up at the end. Again, this is another student, another infographic around this is more work, and where the government has this focus on work. And we do think that some of our asylum seekers and refugees can certainly get into employment, some quite quickly if they want to, and others probably with a bit of help. So we do, as was mentioned, we do what we call tailored learning courses, which are much more or much less about getting a qualification, but just about confidence and trying to get yourself on those first steps of learning, because we recognize as an organization that we do work with people who need multiple steps into learning on some occasions and have lots and lots of challenges, and we try to get past those challenges. I've just remembered something to mention later, so I'll put that down as additional support. Again, you saw Jamie, and he is a typical learner, left school without any qualifications. And then this is about building communities, which is definitely another aspect of our work. We are almost being pushed towards an employability model, but we absolutely understand that in order to, it's not just economics that create community cohesion. We believe that if you feel more confident, you will naturally want to be involved in your communities. And I mean, I'm probably speaking to not preaching to the kind of converted already, but it's really big in the way that we've set up curriculum, in the way that we work with learners, in the extra pastoral care that we give them. Really nice figure there of 91% made fewer visits to the GP compared to the national average. So that was something that I think it was something like we saved the NHS 1 million pounds or something, because you have to equate it into something that politicians understand. So our CEO throws that kind of figure around quite a lot. And just a general, quite a high improvement in overall well-being just from interacting, and whether online or face-to-face. And again, then this is just about the impact of how many tutors we have. This is a little bit out of date because I'm going to share another one with you in a minute, but it gives you the idea of we do work. We have the reason that we have such a broad spectrum of curriculum is that we have an awful lot of volunteers, members, community partners, and tutors delivering. And I think that's. And this is just a little bit of a manifesto about what we, some of the pledges that we try to. I mean, adult education funding, returning it to 2010 levels. Well, they've cut it again, so that's what we're campaigning against. So that's and then the one at the top, which is protect the freedom to set a broad curriculum. We really, really value a broad curriculum. And if you go on the website, I mean, and our curriculum has probably been cut a little bit just due to natural. We've had a big reshape where some tutors did leave because it was a bit uncertain. So we've probably cut our curriculum a little bit, but it's still, particularly broad. So let me stop sharing that. And let me bring in another, oops, let me see. How do I get out of that? Ooh, there we go. That's when I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm just going to come onto the ESOL curriculum offer, because I think that's probably the most useful thing for us to be looking at. So at the moment, let me make it a little bit bigger so that it fills the screen a bit. There we go. So this is what we call our short course options. And these are, I mean, there is flexibility on changing some of these guided learning hours, so GLH's guided learning hours. And it just gives you an idea of some of these things. So I was talking about the ESOL for professionals. So this confidence in the community, first steps in pre-entry, language for work, language for numeracy, these are things that we just do as bread and butter. This ESOL for professionals is something that we're being asked about more and more for asylum seekers and refugees. And this will probably be an online offer, because it's about the higher level asylum seekers and refugees who perhaps only need a smaller intervention. So perhaps they've got, I don't know, they're a doctor or a consultant from their home countries, and they just need something around real bespoke grammar and just getting their writing up to a certain level. So for example, I worked with a group of about 10 social workers, all from different countries, down for a local authority. And they had they knew the social work subject and what they needed to do. They just couldn't write those very technical reports. And we only did a 20-hour course with them, and it was really upskilling in grammar and just getting them to understand some of those bits with a really good teacher. And that was all we ran for them. They didn't need much intervention. The other courses, other than ESOL, so there's ESOL for work, and then you've got the actual so don't just look to the, as you're looking at the screen where it says course, that gives you the guided learning hours. Reading 60, writing is 90, and speaking and listening is 120. So that the awarding body we use, you can do all 3 disciplines in 1 year. I'm going to stop sharing and come back to screen. So what I was going to say was we have a minimum number of learners because of our funding. So we do like to have between about 10 learners to make that meaningful for the learners and to allow us to make a little bit of money on that course to cover costs and what have you. We do 2-hour sessions. We tend to do 2-hour sessions for ESOL. We do two to 2.5. We can run a very intensive model if people, are interested in that, which is 3 sessions a week, which makes 7.5 hours, and you can get through all 3 skills. That isn't necessarily our traditional model, but we will be doing that. We have run it in some places. I run it in our centres where we have WEA centres. We don't have a centre in London. The other one that we do is 5 hours a week, so 2 sessions of 2.5 hours, and that should get people through 2 qualifications with a bit of digital skills, with a bit of employability, and maybe something else if we can fit it into the year. We do like to run, so what's different about us to larger colleges is that we run in the community. We run courses in the community. We're in church halls, church community centres. We're in mosques. We're in anywhere that will take us, really. Village halls, schools, any kind of community centre, libraries. So that's our traditional model of taking learning to the community, and that's why we're slightly different. So it's definitely adult community learning in the community. So we would want to come to you and run it from your building or where your learners are, basically, so that's one less barrier and challenge that we put in front of people in there, and they're comfortable in that space. And then if they want to venture out, they venture out. We do that with schools, so we do maybe a non-qualification course, and then if people are interested in qualifications, they can go then to a centre or somewhere where we're running a qualification course, because you obviously need a certain number of people. We do have a shortage of tutors at the moment. We are going out to agency, and that seems to be working okay at the moment. The other thing we offer is additional learning support or discretionary learning support. And that's the additional learning support is for example, if you might need somebody in the classroom to help. So I've had people who have some sort of disability or needs, large font, or we pay for that, all of those sorts of things. We also can pay for bus passes if needed for people to attend their courses. And if people are on low income, so the London the threshold, we can supplement their learning and pay for the fee. We have a really cheap fee. We're between about £3.60 to £4.20, depending on whether it's online or face to face. So it's very competitive, and we will do everything that we can to make that course free for the learner. And then a call out, really, we are a volunteer run organisation. We are always looking for volunteers, and we're always looking for tutors. So if people are interested in that, I can certainly give you an email address. Even, you know, we ask our learners to come into the classroom and volunteer with us, because that allows them to get some sort of experience to then gain confidence, you know, be able to talk at interview about something that they've done. And that's really, I think, about it in terms of information, because that does feel like a bit of information overload, to be honest. So I'm really happy to take questions or any queries that perhaps have come up.
Thanks, Yaz. That's a real whistle-stop tour.
Yes, sorry.
It's been really useful. It's such an interesting overview. I remember being blown away the first time you showed me like everything you offer. And we've already got in the chat, Julia asking if we can see the table again a bit more slowly, so we can see some of the courses you're offering.
So she wants me to make it smaller, I think.
No, so just make it bigger so we can see what courses
okay,
you're offering, like the titles.
Let me share it then. Here we go.
There we go.
What, a bit bigger?
Yeah, I think just mainly to see the titles would be quite helpful. Thank you. So we've got,
there we go.
What have we got? Confidence in the community, skills in action, conversation cafe, ESOL for professionals, first steps in pre-entry.
So this first steps is interesting because this is for people who cannot read and write at all, and it's a set of courses before we go into a beginner's ESOL.
Wow.
So it's a beginners we call it.
Yeah. So it helps people access the beginners.
Yeah, because what you can get people who probably can progress quite well, you know, in a beginner's class and not go into a qualification class, but there are those that absolutely have never entered a classroom and therefore need a few more steps in before they can get anywhere near a qualification course.
And it's great that you offer that, because it means that then it does make your courses more accessible to a wider group of people, doesn't it? And it was good to hear what you were saying as well about additional discretionary learning support as well. That's really great. Thank you. Language for work. So I guess a question for me is, are any of these courses particularly popular, like as in like that's the one that you get asked to deliver the most?
So what we do is we're having to move away a little bit from these courses with cohorts, because we're being pushed towards a qualification model. So we start with any of these courses we can start with. So this one I said is quite niche, which we're going to offer. Probably the confidence in the community is a really good one, because you can tackle subjects that are you know, common for learners to go out and actually interact in community. We offer a volunteer run conversation club, actually, and sometimes as an intervention to qualification courses. So I have one running in where we've got a level 1 cohort, and they just need help with either fluency in speaking or fluency in reading, because some of the higher level qualifications, the learners can do the stuff, they just can't do it in the time limit because they're just not fluent enough in reading. So we do a lot of those sorts of interventions through volunteers. This one we get a lot of the colleges don't touch pre-entry. They don't touch those very beginners, because it's very little. It takes a longer time to progress them. So colleges don't want to sort of do that. We do language and numeracy. We do a lot of these ESOL for life and work. This is where it's our accredited provision. So the reading, the writing, and the speaking and listening is where we actually get probably quite a lot of interest, because people want a qualification.
So is that entry level 1?
So it goes from, I haven't put that on there, it goes from, so you have your entry levels, which is 1, 2, and 3, and then you have your level 1, which is the lower part of GCSE, and your old money is probably D and below, and level 2 is probably A star to C. And we don't tend to run level 2 ESOL. If we're going to put people onto functional skills courses, so because employers recognise functional skills. So it's once they get to level 1, what level 1 opens up is things like introduction to community interpreting. So if you've got somebody who's particularly good and sociable, and wants to progress onto the level 2 to get a job in the NHS or any kind of translation work, that community interpreting is really popular with ESOL learners, really popular, but it's a higher level course because it gets you into the entry level of employment. Our other one that's really popular is support work in schools, again at level 2. So you do an introduction, but with the level 1s, you can do mental health awareness, stress awareness, any level 1 qualification. I think we do a food hygiene and safeguarding wrapped around it as a package, so that when a learner goes into an interview, they may not have heard of the word safeguarding, but if we've done a really short course on it, they'll be more inclined to be able to answer the safeguarding question, which is probably a mitigating question for schools.
That's great, thank you. I've got lots of questions coming in, so I'm just going to yeah, if you please keep putting questions in the chat, or you can if you know how to raise your hand on Teams, you can do that, and I'll come to you if you want to ask your question in person. So Lawland says, this sounds wonderful, and can you explain how it's funded? So we'll start with that one, and then there's a few more.
So we're given we have a fund, and we are then mandated to go out and put on courses for the residents of London boroughs, basically. So wherever there's need, and there's a lot of unmet ESOL need across the boroughs, we will go and put on a course. We will supply the teacher. We will, work with the venue to put the course on. We would prefer that what we call a sitting cohort, so a captive audience, because that's a lot easier for us to then do. Although we do have marketing, we have two prongs of marketing, which we do. It just isn't great for ESOL. We're much better when we know that there's a need in an area to put on a course, and then work with those partners in the area to signpost it. And so, for example, in Camden, they've got an ESOL advice service, and they do a very basic initial assessment, which allows them to kind of know which level they're at, and then they signpost out to the providers who are offering ESOL.
Great, thank you. So that was also someone else's question. Sophia and Lolland were also asking this, like, how do you contact people? So actually, when I was saying earlier about how 1 in 4 of our churches across the diocese are already doing things to support asylum seekers and refugees, that's what you mean by already having a captive audience, because you've got people who are already part of a community.
Absolutely.
And so that would be ideal. Great, thank you. And so the key question from Lolland is, how would we as a church go about accessing some of this teaching? So let's say that we're online tonight thinking, oh, this sounds amazing. How do our churches go about saying, we're happy to be a venue, what do you need from us?
So I'm going to put my details into chat, and you basically contact me. I have a development worker who's in London, and we would come out, we'd have the initial conversation, and we just basically find out timings from you. We have to set up, we have to come out and do a risk assessment on the venue, on the teaching room. We can't do anything until we do that, and that usually holds us up. As soon as that's done, it gets put on our system very quickly, within a day. And then I can set up a course, and it can go on our website. I can send you some marketing information. Usually we have to set up some sort of enrolment event unless you can get volunteers to help people enroll. Our enrolment is not the most straightforward, I think is probably the best way, usually because there is a language barrier, because we are funded by the GLA, and we do need some eligibility evidence. I'm going to see if I can find that evidence, because then I can give you an idea of what that looks like. I had it up here a minute ago.
Thank you. So essentially, contact you, you'll come out and do a risk, initial conversation, risk assessment of the teaching room, and then it can go from there. But there is eligibility evidence, and that's where you might need maybe some volunteers from the church to help on enrolment day.
We do have enrolment agents, but they're just very sparse. That's all. But I'm just going to make this bigger, and then I'll just bring this up, because this will answer some of those questions, actually, because this is something that changes all the time. It's an eligibility and benefit. So what you need for your application. So we have an application, and then it only moves on to an enrolment once we've received all this. And as I said, we try to get people onto free courses wherever we can. So these are income related benefits. If you receive any of these, again, low income, we can probably do something. Asylum seekers. So you need the ARC card.
Oh, fine. Okay.
Yeah. And then there's these I'll send this to you, because this is important. And then this is what you need in terms of eligibility. So you will need an email address, because we set up a secure WEA email address where learners will access their learner hub, and they'll also access our virtual learning environment, which is where all their course materials will be stored. So you need payslip, maybe ID, residency card, and then proof of address, and all the usual stuff that you would need. So this is
okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, this is just one of those infographics which I can send you, but it's a useful one to have. And I know that we put them up in venues when we're around, but we still have learners that don't bring that information in, and that's generally what holds up their application. Once that's done, they are then contacted via email and SMS, I think. We would also contact the partner who's hosting the course. We have what we call course managers who look after a course from start to finish. So the venue then would speak to that person. So I don't tend to get, I love operational. I don't tend to get operational anymore unless there's a problem. And then obviously it comes back to me. But this
so
is the kind of,
each venue will have someone who is the course manager, who is the contact point between WEA and the venue.
But not from the beginning. From the beginning, we have a development worker, because we have to first of all develop those relationships to make sure that they're right, and whichever one is right. And the course managers have a really strong educational background.
Right.
So they have that quality background. They know what they're looking at with key performance indicators in terms of attendance, achievement, and retention. They've normally done observations in the past, so they'll know if we have any agency tutor that's not sort of fit for purpose or whatever. So, and the interventions, and particularly if we're running qualification courses, they have that experience of running accredited courses. So
Lovely. Thank you. Has anyone got any questions they'd like to turn on their mic and ask a question? Julia, do you want to go ahead? You are on mute, so do you want to turn your mic on? See, Lois, I don't know if you're able to turn Julia's mic on for them, please.
You should be able to unmute Julia. I've got it enabled, but if not, just feel free to pop it in the chat.
Yeah. Okay. Whilst we're waiting for Julia to work the tech.
I've got it. There we go.
Got it.
Sorry.
Well done, Julia.
I was being far too complicated. I was trying to find all sorts of things, and it was giving me all sorts of options. Sorry about that. I'll stick my camera on as well. Hopefully that will work. Yeah. Don't know whether you can see me or not. Yes, you can.
We can definitely hear you.
So my question is, I mean, it all sounds amazing, Yasmin, and I'm really appreciative of obviously the time and the care and everything. I'm a volunteer chaplain, and I'm already inundated with asylum claims, housing, people being, literally having nowhere to live. The idea of getting heavily involved in trying to set up ESOL sounds frankly too daunting. At the same time, I have a lot of we've got a lot of asylum seekers who desperately want to learn and are told, there's a 6-month waiting list for the nearest college. So one thing occurs to me straight away, which is, could you sort of like send us for each borough, could you just let us know where there are courses, or how we could a lot of what we're struggling with is signposting people to things that are already there for them, that we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. And then I've got so at the same time, I think maybe this is something that Laura could work on with you. When you sort of say we send someone out to do a risk assessment, it would be really helpful if you told us, what are you looking, what are your non-negotiables, presumably, obviously well lit, ventilated kind of thing. But are you talking about, what are your limitations? Because at the same time, we can then be looking and thinking, well, actually, we need, a room with whatever it is, and we haven't got that. Or the room that we like to offer you is always in use on a certain day or whatever. Do you see what I mean? I think it would be helpful for churches to get a much clearer idea of what you're looking for, because you know, if I was to even suggest this to our vicar, it would be I'd want to go to him with a very clear idea. I think it was helpful you said you're ideally looking, I love the phraseology, you know, a sitting cohort. I've got a sitting cohort, but their language levels vary from somebody who barely speaks a word of English to, you know, lawyers in their own country, but whose English is not up to suddenly, you know, they want to apply to study law in the UK, but their English is just not at the right level. So so those are a few thoughts. And my final question is, with one particular asylum seeker I've got at the moment, she's waiting to join a course. She's asked me to help find someone who can help her with her English, which I've done, a church volunteer, just to do sort of conversation. But she's hoping to take the exam. She's saying the ESOL. I don't know whether that means
IELTS or IESOL?
Well, the person who is the volunteer said to me IESOL, you know, I
in ESOL,
letter I, letter E, letter SOL. Yeah, I know there's the IELTS as well, because I've had other refugees.
It's a suite of English language qualifications developed by Gatehouse and Language Cert.
Yeah, but you see, for someone like me,
this is different. This is actually
so there are so again, it's kind of for someone like me who's perfectly able, but is not a specialist in, you know, English language courses or anything. But would you, for instance, with an individual like that who's not been able to access a course because there are waiting lists, is there a way that we could access any kind of learning materials for her or something like that, you know, so we're not talking about a course.
No, not the learning materials, because they would be on our VLE, and you can only access that once you get on as a student, and it's, you know, and then you can access whatever you like from there. But other than the free stuff that's out there, we wouldn't be able to share that because that's within our own platform. I'm going to go back to the risk assessment. We call it an external venue risk assessment survey. That's our health and safety, and basically we send it to you to complete.
Oh god.
And it is much simpler than it used to be. To be honest, it's 4 pages, but it's a little boxes. So it's things like, is there adequate lighting, like you said? Is there nothing is mitigating unless it's got, like, you know, I can't tell you where I've worked and taught. No Wi-Fi, no smart board, no whiteboard. You know, I'm putting flip chart paper on the wall and blue tacking it to the wall. So we really work. That's part of our selling, kind of unique selling point and ethos, is that we work pretty much anywhere. Church halls we don't have Wi-Fi in church halls, so therefore, you know, getting onto our VLE is near on impossible. But I can send a copy of the Everast form. That's not a problem at all. You can then have a look, you know, like handrails. Are there handrails for, you know, ramps and things like that? And it's really just asking, do you have suitable chairs and tables? You know, because sometimes we work in children's centres and their tables are a little bit small, if you like. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I can probably attach it here if I can find one quickly.
That's great. If you're able to send it,
I'll send it to you, definitely.
That'd be really helpful.
I've written it down to send
it out.
It's
a really good question, so thank you for raising that, Julia. Because what does that involvement look like, and also, you know, what is involved from us? So like doing the risk assessment, you know, how long is it? That's a really helpful question, so thank you. And I love what you said about signposting to other WEA courses already being hosted in your area, because we always want to encourage our churches to work in partnership wherever we can. But if there is a gap, then great, you know, then let's encourage some of our churches to explore how they might be hosts.
The other thing that I was going to say is we have a rolling, so we're not like a college necessarily, we have a rolling program of online functional skills. And that's, I'm putting on a 60-hour accredited course for reading intensively in Bristol starting this week, because there's so much unmet demand. And it's just one of the, you know, we want to, and I've had to put people onto maths courses because we didn't have a reading course for them. So we've given them the option of, would you like to do maths, for now, and then join in September when we start our next, just so that they've got some learning going on that's going to be meaningful. It's a qualification. It's not going to go, by the wayside. So we do have online sort of courses on, which we find some of them are sometimes at the weekends. I've got level 3 counselling. So we do the higher levels as well, up to level 3, and then we signpost on to higher education, if people want to do foundation degrees and what have you. But what we find is exactly that you've got lawyers or doctors, and their level is not, it's level 1, which is pre-GCSE. It's that lower level of GCSE, but they've got all of the experience and skills. So alongside doing their learning with us, we always encourage them to go into hospitals or to volunteer, because that's been, I know somebody who's got some work through that, and then the hospital should have funding to get them through courses that are relevant to their profession, whatever their profession is within the medical field. Because
but do they have to have their status, their ILR status for that?
I think to access our courses, it's the 6-month rule, I think.
Okay.
It's, I think unless they're on certain schemes. So we're working with the Arab scheme, we're working with the Ukrainian schemes, and then obviously they're different. But and the other reason that we offer the online is that the learners, if they've just come into the country, they can take that learning with them, as opposed to it being face to face in venue. And it just, because the transient nature of those sorts of learners. So we try our absolute best to offer as much flexibility as we can. We do have certain constraints. There's, every organisation does. I think you're Hammersmith, did you say?
Yeah.
I think we've got a lot. I have to have a map of the boroughs up every day, every 5 minutes, because I don't think we've got much in Hammersmith at the minute. I think you have got the big colleges there.
Yeah, we've got the big West London college, but a lot they're all on a waiting list for that. Obviously, some of them have been here for months, and they're hoping they might get in September. But
so in the meantime, we can offer, so we do mixed level groups, because we have no choice sometimes to do. And what we tend to find is we obviously differentiation and all of that, but we tend to find that some of the higher level volunteers then naturally volunteer within the classroom, and that's a really great thing. So we're open to that. Also, I wanted to understand, is there any scope so we're now at the end of the academic year, really. A lot of our tutors go on holiday. We as I said, we are going out to agency staff. We run until the 31st of July, so we can run provision. We tend not to, because we have a lot of our ESOL learners are parents, and then they have childcare responsibilities. Very difficult for them. But that isn't everybody that comes under that group. So I wonder if there's any scope for running something up to the end of July, and then starting in the new academic year from August. It's doable. It's a little bit tight on timing, but it's certainly doable if people want to do that and have something over the summer before people go into colleges and stuff.
I think part of the problem, just this is not this context, but obviously, from the church's viewpoint, it's always, who's the caretaker, who's going to lock up at the
absolutely,
end, who's the safeguarding responsible. Now, if you say, well, you come, there's all sorts of technical things that the church itself has to think about, or be aware of, or whatever. And the problem for that is obviously as you said, a lot of families go away over the summer. So there might be a reluctance, simply because it's kind of, the support staff are not going to be around as much. So sadly, it's a bit of a,
and that's what we find, to be honest. We do it. We're going to offer some stuff in some of our centres, just for people to access, a few bits, but it is quiet over this, without a doubt. And when we've done stuff in the past, it's not not been.
Thank you. I'm just gonna Leah, who I kept calling Lollen, is apparently Leah. Sorry about that, Leah. Is struggling to access her tech, but she's just about to start typing a question. So I'm conscious we've got about 10 minutes left, but I'm really glad that it sparked some conversations and some interest about possibly hosting and volunteering. So Leah's question is, how can I find out if there is a need in my geographical area? So if, say, like I'm in a church in, I can't remember where you're from, Leah, let me just have a quick look, sorry. You're in the Edmonton area. So how would we know? Is it that we email you and say we're in this area and you can tell us? Is it that simple? Or?
I mean, I do have a map of unmet demand. It is a little bit out of date, but what we do is we rely on community local intelligence, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So Edmonton, we do have some provision in Edmonton. We're working. We did have some, and we're working with some. So we're working with poverty concern, and then there's somebody else that we're working with, and I can't remember off the top of my head who it is, to put on some provision in that area, because they've approached us. Those partners or those community centres have approached us to say we've got a group of people. So definitely Edmonton is if you want me to. What I can do is I can send a list of. So for functional skills and for maths and English, we have what we call a holding code, a P code, and people just express their interest. They apply for a course, and then we have to do an assessment. So for any kind of ESOL functional skills, we have to do an assessment. We have to level the person at the right level.
Yeah.
And then we offer you if there's something available in the area, or we offer you an online option. In terms of what you can do. And obviously London is massive. We're not everywhere. We're very much central, north, not central, northeast, and on the west. So Redbridge, Tower Hamlets, Redbridge, Islington, Camden, what's up there? Enfield, Northern Forest, I think. I have to get my map out. So those are off the top, and then obviously on the other side, Southall, we've got a little bit of provision over there. We're looking at Brent at the minute with some partners. So, but definitely we've got something in Edmonton. I'll just write that down.
Thank you. So if for example, like Leah is saying, how can I find out if there's a need in Edmonton itself? So if there aren't ESOL classes currently being run by WEA, then there might be an opportunity for looking at helping with that. Or on the other hand, there might be someone exploring that already, and it might be that they need more volunteers. Our churches could help with that, for example.
I think the other person you could probably go to is Khadija. I don't know if she's got. I don't know if she's got an up-to-date list, because the list she sent us wasn't. It's a couple of. I've got what I call my cultural studies courses in Barnet, which are like your history, your creative writing, your creative art. I haven't got an ESOL.
Okay,
that
so
I'm aware of.
No, then Keith, in answer to your question, not that you're aware of in Barnet. I'm just dropping into the chat. It's quite a useful map. It's the London the GLA map of migrant support services, and if you go onto that map, you will be able to search for things like ESOL provision in your area. Now, does that mean they're all WEA?
No. It's all the providers. It's a really good place to go, because we then don't want to compete directly. So we are having lots of conversations now with other providers in order to complement their provision and not be in competition, because none of us have got the resource to do those sorts of things. But that's what we tend to use, is that there's that one, and then there is another one I think that we use as well.
I mean, that map is quite helpful for identifying what kind of services around for asylum seekers and refugees generally. But bear in mind that, for example, it might not show some of the stuff that our churches do unless our church is submitted to that map. So it's only as good as what is shown. But in terms of other organisations, it might be quite helpful. And if there does look like there's a dearth of ESOL, if you look in your area and use that map, then that's something worth considering. Okay, I'm glad that's helpful, Leah. Thank you. So Keith, not much in Barnet, so have a chat and see.
Not much ESOL in Barnet. There is a lot of other cultural studies type stuff in Barnet, but not much ESOL. If there's a need, we do rely. We do rely on local intelligence. We rely on you telling us where the need is and us taking that learning to those learners, really.
And I'm thinking of some of the churches I visited across our diocese who already do things, perhaps have like a drop-in for asylum support. One of our churches has an e-visa support worker, for example, They might do LGBTQ plus asylum support. So they're already, like you say, these ready-made groups of people who already know each other in our community.
Absolutely.
And so they would be kind of good places to explore, because even if there is perhaps ESOL provision elsewhere, because they're already part of that community, that's their safe bubble, and they become their family, then learning ESOL together is also really important, isn't it? So I really liked what you were saying about the WEA ethos at the beginning of building community, not just being, obviously I know funding can sometimes be very driven by kind of economic and employability skills and things, and that's the nature of funding, isn't it? In any sector, but you know, to build community, and that's something, you know, our churches really believe in, being hubs of community. So
and while we do courses, you naturally, that community is built, and learners tell us that. It's not something that we, you know, they tell us that time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. If you think that, you know, it's Refugee Week this week, I think the theme is community as a superpower, and really that's, you know, we see that in our churches as microcosms.
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely. Yeah.
I think we've got time for one last question. So I can see Keith is typing away, so I'll wait for you to okay. Keith says we're already providing English conversation, but these would be a feeder, maybe. Do you mean a feeder into these courses, Keith? And he says, what do you think, Yasmin?
Yeah, totally. That's what we do. We tend to do the tailored learning, and then people get a taste for it, find they've got a bit of confidence, maybe, you know, skills in it, and actually, oh no, I'm better than I thought I was. And then we say, would you like to, because we are about progression. We want people to progress. Sometimes that's linear progression in terms of horizontal, you know, and doing lots of sort of tailored learning, and sometimes it is going into accredited courses. So we absolutely, we build on one course to another.
Lovely. Thank you so much. I promised we would end on time. So Yasmin, thank you so much for spending
no worries at all. Really lovely. Really lovely.
It's been brilliant, really helpful, and lots of good questions and things coming through. So what we'll do is between me and Lois, we'll send a follow-up email, just making sure that everyone's got your email again, Yasmin. And also, if you're able to send me that, you know, the things you've shared, the breakdown of the different courses and the risk assessment, and then I can send that out to people who are attended, that'd be great. Thank you. I'll just make a note of that. Yeah, thank you. It's been a really good evening. Thanks everyone. Yeah, Leah, definitely. You know, she says I wish us all the best with helping more people feel more a part of our communities, and English language is a way into that, isn't it? Thank you so much.
No, thank you for everybody's time for coming out on an evening, and hopefully we can work with some of the churches in the future.
I look forward to hearing about how our churches are engaging and how we're able to reach more people. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you.
And,
bye.
Take care.